Ladies and gentlemen, welcome at another Q&A session during 61st edition of Krakow Film Festival. Today we have the very special meeting, the meeting with Hong Kong documentary filmmakers, the people behind Inside the Red Brick Wall. I'm honored to host this interview. So guys, hello, tell us, how are you doing on these days?
Hi, nice to meet you. We're doing okay here. Thank you for watching the film.
Thank you for making it. Apparently, we have to start with the question about the beginning of this project. Like, how did it look like? Was it like the moment that the riots appeared, that the protests appeared, and you felt the need to catch it, to shoot it? Or were you just the part of the mob, the part of the people who didn't want to agree for what's going on in Hong Kong, and the film just came by as a result of your work as an activist?
Um, the protest in 2019 started back in June. And there's a group of us, we were all at the scenes. We, as Hong Kongers, we were thinking what role we could play. At different times, we started filming, taking record of what's happening at the scenes. And from July 1st, something happened on July 1st, which is also captured in our other film. And we decided to come together. We saw each other on the scenes and decided to come together to have a collective archive of what we have shot on footage. And we decided that if one of us wanted to produce a film based on certain dates, we would share our footage to give the story more fullness and more perspectives. So this is how the team came together. And what you saw happened at Polytechnic University was in November. So from July 1st, we have basically been shooting every day whenever there's something happening. So it wasn't planned that we would shoot this story on this specific day, but we have just been shooting basically every day. But we decided to produce the film based on July 1st and then based on Poly in November because of, I think, emotionally that there was a need to organize what we've been through and what happened among protesters, what were the discussions. And I think part of it was trying to help others understand why it happened the way it did. And we feel that the discussions among protesters, whether it was agreement, disagreement, or general struggles on trying to make decisions based on the limited information and resources they have. I think that, and the emotions that was happening is what we really wanted to capture and share with the audience.
Gotcha, because like when I was watching your film, I felt like a part of the protesters. I felt like if I was there, I felt the similar emotions probably because you shoot it in the way that you don't know what to expect, like you feel threatened all over everywhere. So I can just imagine how hard for you was working on it and how hard for you was to be the part of the protesters. So could you share a little bit more about this experience, about all of these situations that actually you decided to even put your life in danger just to be part of it and just to capture it?
I think it all happened very suddenly, whether it was to the protesters, to the reporters on site, or even to our team. We have been alongside the protesters recording what was happening throughout, but this siege on the campus happened very suddenly. And we just basically heard through word of mouth that the police would be putting the campus on siege and even reporters will not be able to leave the scene. And we had to make a decision on the spot whether or not we would stay or leave. We have friends who left, we have friends who choose to stay, but basically we just all somehow came to consensus that we felt the need to stay because we felt what will happen inside the campus is a story that needs to be told. And also because we saw a lot of reporters left, and we felt that there's a need to record what will happen.
Gotcha. And could you tell a little bit more about your hopes and about your expectations about this protest? Like, did you believe from the very beginning that they're gonna be successful, or didn't you have the hope for that? Did you thought that they're gonna be like a break soon? What was your expectation? What was your hoping?
I think I can only speak for myself. I guess the team we would all have different thoughts and feelings about it. I think for myself, every day was very shocking. But none of these have ever happened in Hong Kong before. We've never seen this happen before. I think I had no idea what to expect, and every day would end with a lot of emotions and shock and heartbreak. You would have seen a lot of injuries, a lot of young people who came out of faith in justice, in face of protecting each other, and it's I don't think I ever knew what to expect. Every day would end with a lot of questions and doubts of why this is happening. And I guess there's also a feeling of hope from the younger generation. I think for me, I am more pessimistic. But when you see them putting everything they have into this, you wish for them to you wish to see hope, and you kind of feel like you get closer to hope when you're with them.
Yeah, because also like on the images on the footage, we see that these people they feel really they support each other. They feel really united. You can feel that power of the mob that actually is fighting for what's important for them, fighting for the ideas, right?
Yes, I think we are often encouraged by them. Like when you see how hard they try, you feel like there could be hope. I think this also comes from the context that in the past, democracy movements in Hong Kong have been very divided, even within the same camp, with different approach, different beliefs, or different age groups. There would be a lot of disagreements. There've always been a lot of disagreements and arguments. But this time in 2019, there are many, many moments where in the past we would have fallen apart, but this time we stayed together. So I think that is very shocking for ourselves and it moves us.
Gotcha. And could you tell us a little bit about your editing process, how this work looked like? I believe that you had like tons of materials. So choosing something and building the story that you presented to us, it had to be like the really long and challenging process. So could you share a little bit about how it looked like? Did you edit the material like daily, weekly, or did you edit it after you decided that here we have enough of footage and now we can tell the story?
So the editing process started 2 months after the incident. And I think it happened because one of us felt the urge to revisit what had happened. I think for all of us and a lot of people in Hong Kong, even if they weren't within the campus, this incident was a huge trauma for them. Whether they're watching it from news, live feed, or hearing about it from their friends who were trapped. or relatives or whoever. I think for the whole of Hong Kong, it was a traumatic experience, especially for those of us who were inside. I think most of us were avoiding to rethink what had happened. But I think 2 months from the incident, one of us felt the need to relook at it and try to put it into a story to understand what we had experienced.
有睇過長鏡頭，其實睇咗真係好想笑，因為佢代表咗我哋個運動嘅傷害。
And the ending shot of two youngsters on the staircase, trying to decide whether or not they should stay or leave. That shot, I think once we saw it when we were going through our footage, we felt that would be the significant scene because it really symbolizes the whole movement and basically every day, every protest. This whether we should stay or leave together has always been a huge struggle. And even until today, when the movements seemingly have quieted down, when people are deciding whether or not they should move to other countries, whether they should stay in Hong Kong, I think this scene or that emotion is still with us until this day.
同埋你話因為想代入示威者，所以捨棄咗全面性、物落食同上體嘅視覺。
And also, actually, there weren't a whole lot of footage that we could choose from because the team actually were only capable of shooting in the first 2 days of the whole siege. So what you saw in the footage, most of what happened in the film was actually the first 2 days, and eventually the team felt that we were unable to keep shooting emotionally. And so among the footage, there were also limitations because we really wanted to show what we saw with our own eyes. So since we were trapped inside ourselves, what you saw were only from the perspectives of inside the red brick wall. There were also a lot happening outside. There were hundreds of thousands of people trying to rescue people who were trapped inside the campus. And those were all probably in other documentary films or on news that you saw. But in our film, it was a very limited perspective because we were only showing what we saw with our own eyes and trying to show you what the protesters were seeing and experiencing when they were trapped inside.
Gotcha. And could you tell us a little bit more about the challenge that was connected with the fact that you cannot show the faces of the people, that you cannot show yourself, that you have to stay anonymous, and you have to be sure that you're gonna guarantee the anonymity to the other people that actually you catch. Did it mean for you that you have to like resign from a lot of footage, from a lot of materials because you didn't want to risk, or because you blurred the faces, you could use whatever you shoot?
其實因為有啲眼神好唔實際，但打級冇效果，所以冇用，有好多呢啲素材。
I think for keeping the protesters anonymous part, as documentary filmmakers, we know faces and expressions tells a lot about what the protagonist is going through. But because of the situation, we had to protect the identity and had to blur all their faces. So this does take away a lot of the energy that we were trying to show the audience. So this is a challenge for us, but it's also very important for us to keep them safe. I think we are trying to tell their stories and we have the responsibility to also keep them safe.
因為好多例子，因為被全面都入咗罪。
So until today, there's still a lot of trials and trials of arrested cases going through, and there are new arrests even until today that are made. Some were made based on videos and news footage that was published. So this is definitely something that we have to carefully manage.
And after your release,
Sorry.
Please, because I heard that you're speaking, so please
Oh,
continue.
yeah. There are about 10,000 arrests now by now. That is related to what happened in 2019. Um, and specifically, cases related to Polytechnic University are actually also starting to go on trial now. So yes, we're trying to treasure every opportunity we have to share the stories and to show the world what some of the people in Hong Kong have been through. But we're also trying to be very careful about it to not put anyone in danger in the process of trying to raise concerns and keeping everyone safe. Yeah, and so one of the reasons why we're keeping ourselves anonymous is also because we do want to keep the footage we have safe from anyone basically. But we also feel that it's important to keep this part of history alive and archived so that when there's a day when everyone is free and safe, that this could be shared without blurring or mask.
This is actually the subject that I wanted to ask you as the next question, because I believe that after your film was released and it was presented in the like very important film festivals, you had a lot of press, there was a lot of reviews, there is a lot of reviews in the internet. So how the government, how the people in power reacted for that? Were you in trouble? Was it commented somehow? Did you feel that actually they are chasing you or they are interested in this subject, or maybe you didn't have like any kind of reaction from them?
Yeah, that there are definitely reactions from the government. I think when we first started screening in Hong Kong, it was in a local film festival. So it's relatively less commercial and a smaller screening space. And we were able to screen those legally with approval from the government department. But when it started to gain more attention, when we tried to extend the licensing, there were first it was rated R, so under 18, that means under 18 are not allowed to watch it. And we were asked to add a warning in the beginning that claiming that the footage could be disguised or incorrect, which is not our own words, but we were told to add that warning in order for it to be legally screened. And also the DVD that we submitted to the department to be screened was returned in scraps. It was broken, intentionally, we felt. Um, and then eventually there were commercial theaters who wanted to screen it, but they had to cancel on the day of the first screening. And since then, nobody dared to screen it. And there were pro-China reporters who were sent undercover to some of our private screenings, taking photos and videos of our audience. And there were no government official commentaries, but there are long commentaries from these pro-China newspapers saying that this film potentially is illegal, watching these films are potentially illegal. So they're just trying to shape their narrative of what's going on without really telling us what is illegal about it. So yeah, it's getting harder for us to even host very private by invitation screenings now.
Gotcha. But tell me, please, does it mean that actually what you depicted in your film, when you depicted the brutality of the police, when you depicted how the protesters were treated by the people in power, by the police and by the other units that was about to block them and was about to break them, is it something that actually is very unique? Is it like that in Hong Kong the protest that the protest was covered in the media, that in the media, in the news media, actually you could see what's going on the street, and you could actually see how it looked like. What like, because I am just curious about the fact that your film is considered illegal, even though it depicts what happened. But does it mean that actually it was like absent completely in the media, in the outlets in Hong Kong?
That's a very interesting question. I guess we would have the same question too, because you're right. A lot of what happened, what a lot of what we showed in the film were shown live on news channels, on online platforms. So there's nothing that nobody has seen before. But I guess as a film that is shown in theater, we would like to think that as filmmakers ourselves, we believe in the power of film and movies. And I guess the government probably believes in that too. So they feel the need to control this from spreading, control this footage or facts from spreading. And also, an interesting point is whenever people are trying to say that this film might be illegal or challenges the national security, whatever, they would say that the films are romanticizing
Mm-hmm.
the movement or the freedom fighters or whatever you call them, the protesters. They're trying to make them look like heroes. But I personally don't. I personally felt what the film was showing was exactly the opposite. What the film was showing was that every single one of them is just a normal human being, just like you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And you can walk inside yourself to see what happened, what they discussed, what situation were they under when they had to make decisions. So yeah, I mean, but every commentary we've seen that challenges the film was saying that this film should not be shown because it heroicifies the protest. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But it's really interesting. Like right now, it seems like right now the government is trying to erase what happened. That they try to like destroy the memory, like destroy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's really incredible that actually you are the victim of just like taking the footage like every other people did. It's really incredible.
Yeah, we would never have thought that we would feel unsafe
Mm-hmm.
just by filming and recording what had happened.
So the rest of the protesters, the rest of the people, their reaction for you with cameras was positive, I believe.
Uh, actually, not all that positive. I think throughout the whole protest, there were times when they felt more at ease and eventually less because there were people intentionally coming in with cameras to capture identities and was unknown. We don't know who they are. So I think there were, and then eventually when there were more arrests, people were more protective of themselves. It did take time for but also we do notice that usually during really intense situations, nobody would care if there was a camera because they wouldn't have time to notice if there were cameras. So I guess that also plays into how we were able to shoot during the time.
And if it's about the police, did they treat you like in a special way where they focus on you because you have the camera, or they also like didn't care because there was like too many people and too much thing was going on to just notice you with camera and focus on you?
Yeah, that definitely changes had changed throughout the whole protest. I think earlier on in the movement, you can obviously feel that with a camera, you feel safe and you feel that was when police know that there are cameras shooting, they would be more controlled and they would be more aware of what they are doing. But as the movement goes on, as there were more violence and more police brutality, eventually, even if you had 10 cameras pointing, shooting at them, they would just do whatever they were doing. And there was growing anger and hatred that you would feel from police as the movement goes on. Yeah, I think even in the film there was a scene when there was a reporter shooting and was challenged or almost attacked by, almost shot actually by the police. So I think as the movement went on, there was definitely more hostility towards people with cameras from the police. But I do have to add that even though that it has changed throughout the time, people with cameras were definitely a lot safer than protesters. Protesters are at a much higher risk and more severe violence from the police.
Gotcha. So before I let you go, I just want to ask you about the condition of Hong Kong today, how the situation looks like. Is there like, how do you feel about the future? Do you think that there's going to be like the new wave or new protest, new element that of people who are about to fight, or what is the future of the country in your perspective?
There has been a lot more oppression and arrests since the movement. And I think across different industries or professions even, they're trying every way they can to suppress any voices from going out, or and I guess we all have friends and people we know going to trial, going to court. But there are still many people who are trying different ways to still show their support in fighting for democracy, or showing support for everyone who are suffering the consequences from the movement in every way they can, small as writing letters to people who are now in prison, reminding them that we're still here supporting them and we remember them, supporting their families. There are people sharing stories, whether it's through documentary films, through words, through photos, through any ways they can. Yeah, but it definitely, the whole atmosphere definitely feels very suppressed and a lot quieter. I guess a lot of what people are doing also have to be anonymous or low key to be able to keep doing what they do. So I think that also plays into, we no longer see officially intense happenings on the street publicly, but there are still a lot of people trying very hard to support each other within the community.
Let me just tell you in the end that apparently here in Krakow Film Festival, we all show the support to the people of Hong Kong. We keep working as guys from you. I hope that sooner than later, you won't have to do the things like filmmaking anonymously, and hopefully on the next edition or the next edition in Krakow, we're gonna see each other officially face to face. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and sharing your experience with us. And as I said, please remember that we are also with you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for selecting the film and sharing the story with people all the way in Krakow. It's really amazing for us to know that people all the way so far away from us cares about what's happening in Hong Kong, and we can connect in such a level. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
Take care, you too.